Hi, Miss Nikki here. I thought I'd go through kind of how to study. I know I did it in the introductory video, but maybe it was a little bit fast. I figured I'd kind of focus on what's important here. So obviously we have a lot of chapters before we have our midterm. It's a lot of information, but weekly you have quizzes, right? So let's go into chapter 17. My internet's being a little weird, so sometimes it might take me a second to get where I need to go. So we have our chapter 17 learning objectives. That is the key to doing well on the lecture part of the exam. So the learning objectives, every question is tied to an exam question. So they're all sorted on my end. They're all sorted out by the learning objectives. And I say, ask them 2 of the 20 that are in that category that have to do with that learning objective. So that would be the first place to go. And I think it depends on how do you study better. Some people want to read the textbook and answer the learning objectives, and then they come down and they watch the videos. And if they understand everything in the video that I'm saying, then they've probably read enough and answered the chapter 17 questions enough. Some people like to watch the video first because they want to get kind of the underlying foundation of what's going on, see the picture, see me talking through it. Then they want to come back, answer the learning objectives, and then they'll read the textbook as they're doing their Connect homework, right? So it's kind of up to you how you want to do it. Right, so we have, if I go back to chapter 17, I was looking for the Connect assignments. Oh, there they are, sorry. So we have the 17 homework, right? That's where you can read the textbook and answer the questions. So if you want to read and answer questions at the same time, you can do the homework part. If you want to watch the videos first, you can do that. And I've chopped them up into parts because it can get a little technical here with the endocrine. We have lots of hormones that are doing lots of crazy things, right? Good for us things, but they sound a little crazy, right? They're going to other glands, telling other glands to release hormones. So then we also have for the endocrine material, if you want to sort everything, if you want to organize it, I have the hormone chart for you. So I gave you one that has the answers. Usually we would fill these in class. We would go through and we'd fill in the blanks during class time as we were talking about it. So we have the hormone that you have to know, the stimulus trigger. So what causes growth hormone to be released? So growth hormone is released from the anterior pituitary, but the hypothalamus releases a hormone in order to cause growth hormone to be released. So it's like dominoes, right? It's a chain of events that has to happen. And then growth hormone targets bone, muscles, and liver. And what does it do? What's the effect or action? It stimulates growth factors, increases fat metabolism, and the release of glucose. You need those things, right? You need energy in order to grow. So, if you're great at, memorizing, you'll be like, oh, this is easy, right? The inhibition factor and the disorders, I just put them on there. I rarely ask questions about them unless I cover them in detail in the learning objectives. So diabetes is one that we'll see a lot. So I would probably understand what's happening in someone that has diabetes. And again, that has to do with insulin down here, right, from the pancreas. So I would probably look at that one. The rest of them, the majority of them, we're going to come back and talk about all of these hormones with every subsequent chapter. So if you've already moved on to chapter 18, you'll see that hormones come up again when we talk about blood pressure. They're going to come up again when we talk about the kidneys and how much water is in our urine, right? So this is kind of, if you can understand the beginning part, then you'll really understand them when we get to specifics of each organ system. So for these hormones, you do have to know the trigger, the gland, the target organ, and effector action. So basically those first 4 columns. If you want to practice, that's where this chart comes in. If it loads. So I've had students print this out. Can you fill in the boxes without looking at your notes? So this is a way for you to practice that recall, right? So hopefully that'll help you kind of organize the material. If you've noticed in the textbook, it kind of goes zigzags. It goes kind of, there aren't easy charts for every single one of these. So we're just basically taking all the chapter 17 information and we're consolidating it into one chart. So what would I do if it was me? I would watch the videos first, take notes if there was something I didn't understand, ask a question. It's really good in online with really difficult concepts like in 202. If while you're watching the videos, you have a list next to you, right? Either on your computer, on your phone, on a piece of paper. You mentioned this, I don't understand this. And you can't say I didn't understand any of it, right? It needs to be specific. I can't re-explain via email or tutor the entire chapter, but I can definitely help you sort out what was it that you didn't understand. I don't understand how the hypothalamus hormones get to the pituitary. I don't understand how this hormone affects this organ that's so far away, right? So if your questions are specific, we can narrow it down. I can help you figure it out. But I would watch the videos and take notes on the side of anything that was just over the top crazy, right? Then I would come and answer learning objectives or do the reading and the homework questions and then answer the learning objectives. So I would probably watch the videos first, read the textbook, answer the connect questions, and then do the learning objectives. It's up to you. Some people like to go through the outline and read the outlines. If you don't want to watch the videos, if my voice is annoying, you can pull up the outlines. It's everything that's on the slides, but it's not necessarily everything that I say. And also remember, you can speed it up. If I'm talking too slowly or you think I'm repetitive, I've had instructors online that just for some reason it's annoying to watch the videos. I speed them up. Speed them up to 1.75. You can speed up the playback. So you don't have to sit there for an hour and listen to me as it's driving you crazy, right? Hopefully if you're in online, then you're good with those kind of things. But we all have different maybe things that bug us. You shouldn't have a problem using a code for the lab. You should have been able to get in. This was old when we were having another issue, and you can see it's hidden from the student. I just haven't put this in non-edit mode. Chapter 17 lab content, everyone, I think but one student, everyone did perfect. They went in, they checked all the structures, they looked at them on the cadaver, and then they took the quiz at the end and did well. If you get above a 90%, it gives you 100 for the quiz. So you just have to score well enough in that 90 percentile, and it'll give you all of the points for the quiz. And then we have the Chapter 17 quiz. You can do these quizzes over and over again before the due date, and it'll really help you kind of understand if you're able to take all of this information, digest it, and you're able to answer a question. And something that you might have noticed is that the learning objectives and the quiz questions, sometimes you need 1 or 2 learning objective answers to answer a question. So in 202, we're kind of moving into more difficult concepts where it can't just be define this, right? Or tell me where this comes from. There are a few easy questions on the test, but some of the questions require you to take 2 learning objectives, put them together, and then process that information to come up with the answer. So it is 202. It is a little bit more difficult than 201. And there's a lot more content, and it's in the summer, and it's online. So you guys really have your work cut out for you. I'm here to help. I can answer any questions, but it is going to be hours of work, probably per day on your part. So this is just the chapter, right? I'm going to skip ahead. Every chapter is going to have the same basic outline, right? You're going to have learning objectives. You're going to have a connect assignment. You're going to have a lab assignment. Some chapters won't have a lab assignment, but you'll have videos and outlines. Everything will be the same. I'm going to come down to midterm prep, and I want to point out that immunity is an overview. So I had a student email me and said, this material is so complex. I'm reading the chapter. Am I supposed to be reading, 70 to 80 pages and taking notes? No. So you can do the reading and then just answer the learning objective questions. So I'm going to click into chapter 22, and I'm going to pull up the learning objectives. And this one does not have a lab, right? So I'm going to pull up The reason it's called an overview, we're just skimming the surface. We're not getting into great detail on immunity. Wait for this to load. So there's not that many. It's very basic. List the type of leukocytes of the immune system. Give me a brief definition of where they can be found. Tell me the similarities and differences between innate and adaptive immunity. Basic definitions. What is innate? What is adaptive? So this chapter is a lot lighter than the other chapters. We're just skimming it. If you try to read all of 22 and learn everything that's in chapter 22, it's going to be really hard, right? This is some more complex information that we just don't need right now. You'll cover it later, maybe in microbiology it'll come up again. In some of your allied health classes it'll come up. But for right now, we just need to skim the surface and have an idea what T cells and B cells are, what's an infectious agent, what kind of immune defenses do we have, like our skin, or do we have cells that are going to activate us to make antibodies? So we just need to kind of know the basics of how immunity works. So now I'm going to go back and go to the midterm. So the midterm practice quizzes are due. You do receive points for doing the practice preparation for midterm. I've had these as optional before, and students wouldn't do them, and then they were upset that they didn't do well in the class. So now I've just made them mandatory. You have to do it. It's graded. You get points. Well, I guess you could still not do it. So there's a practice exam using HonorLock. So you can figure out how HonorLock works. It'll log you into HonorLock. You'll have to, I don't know if they make you show your ID anymore. They make you show part of your ID or something to some, you have to verify who you are in some way, shape, or form. And then it's going to record you and record your screen as you're taking the test. Please read through the instructions. I've had people that have a football game going on in the background. People having fights, conversations. They stop in the middle of their exam and start talking to somebody. All of those things are not allowed, right? So no headphones in your ear, no cell phone, no constantly looking away from the screen. One time we had somebody that was calling out the question, I guess, to Siri, and Siri was giving her an answer some way, somehow. They detected another device in the area. So HonorLock is really good at catching kind of cheating. So just, stay as focused as you can. Don't deviate from the screen. After the midterm, I look through all the videos and I'll let you know if there's, some flag that's serious that I need you to correct before your final exam. So not out to get anybody. I don't think everybody's cheating. I think sometimes things are just, we're looking to the side to try to jog our brain of, what it is we need to come up with, right? Pull to the front of our brain. But the HonorLock system will flag you for a bunch of different things. So read through the instructions at the top and make sure that it makes sense to you. And unfortunately, we have to do this because we have lots of people that do get caught cheating every semester. So unfortunately, something we have to do. So you can practice using the HonorLock. And then I have the midterm practice lab exam. So I also have directly above it, basically this is everything you need to know for the lab. So it's going to pull up. So basically this is a study guide. Make sure you can do everything that's on here. These are all of the lab terms that you have to be able to find. For Chapter 18, you're doing a blood lab about agglutination and antibodies. So if I gave you a blank, could you tell me what it is? So if I gave you the plate that has an unknown sample and we put antibodies on it, and I'll give you some examples as we go through. You'll see in the practice quizzes, there'll be some examples. Could you tell me what blood type it is? Then these are all of the Chapter 19. You'll go through those with your lab. And these are all of the 20. You'll go through those with your lab. And then tracing a drop of blood. Can you trace a drop of blood through the heart, out to the lungs, and back to the heart, and then out to each arm, right or left? And so then I've kind of gone through and given you the breakdown from the lab book. So this is all in our lab book, but I've put it right here so it's easy to find. These are the items you have to be able to identify for the midterm and the questions you have to be able to answer. Then you can go into midterm practice lab, and it's going to pull questions. So I'll just show you. Hopefully it'll load. So it's going to give you an image, and it's going to have a letter pointing to it. I was kind of afraid with my internet the way that it's being. Oh, yay. Okay. So letter C, it's pointing to this blue vessel. Tell me what it is. right? And so then you'll type that into the box. You can take this quiz over and over and over again. The students that take these quizzes over and over again do really well, right? So that is once we get to the practice lab. There will be a practice lecture exam. Right now, it's not pulling the questions in the way I want it to. It's taking all of the questions and pulling them instead of just the ones that I want you to be able to look at. So I have to fix this, but again, I'm in a place where my internet is not behaving. So hopefully by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll have it sorted out and the practice will be there, but we still have a couple of weeks before you have to take your midterms. So it'll definitely be there I would say by the end of next week. I should have everything sorted out. So both of these you can take over and over again to make sure that you know that you're on track, right? So I know this is a lot of information. I know that in some cases you may not have had kind of this structure or setup for 201 since I'm teaching this online. I know some students are my former students and some are not. So if you have questions, please let me know. If there's content that I talk about in the video that you're kind of stuck on, go back and watch my old departmental videos. So I have them for 103, I have them for 201. Sometimes don't take offense to this. If you ask me a question and say, hey, I didn't cover muscle contraction. We covered it very briefly. I'm not understanding heart contraction. I might tell you, go watch this 201 video and then we can talk about how cardiac is different. So I'm not trying to brush you off. It's just there's good content in the 201 section. You could go back and review, and that actually has the video or it has the image that I'm pointing to and discussing. So then we have kind of the same starting place, and then I can tell you how cardiac is different. So don't think I'm brushing you off. It's just what I've done in the past, and it does seem to work. I am happy to do any virtual sessions. I am not going to be back in the States until Wednesday. So I'm the internet is iffy. It works, but it's not super fast. And some of the virtual chats just are not going to happen. But I think we have enough time. Like I said, we have several weeks before we have to actually get to our midterm exam. So June 16th, that's, more than 2 weeks. For our midterm, and then our exam is due on the 23rd. So we have a little bit of time here. Keep working on these chapters. Make a list of anything that you want to talk about. When I'm back in country next week, we can go through any of the topics that you want to go through. We could meet in my office if you're local. We could do a virtual chat. So either Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday next week I would be available for any of those things. So we'll kind of play it by ear. Let me know what you need. If you get stuck on something, screenshot it for me. Sometimes students will say, oh, I'm stuck on question number 12. So I don't necessarily know what that is, especially if you're doing where it pulls the questions randomly. I may not know what question 12 is for you. So if you get stuck on anything, screen capture it for me and then send it and then say, hey, I don't understand this concept, or this is what I'm stuck on. And that'll make it a lot easier for me to give you a very direct answer and not have to ask you another question before I actually answer your question. So, yeah, this is going to be a lot of work, and it's going to require some time on your part, but this is the more interesting anatomy, I'll say. 201 is lots of memorization and bones and muscles. It got interesting at the end with the nervous system. Every chapter is like the nervous system. Every chapter is like muscles, where there's just so much information and lots of light bulbs where you'll go, oh, that's why this happens, and that's why this happens. So 202 can be a really great class. It does just take a lot of work. So hopefully I've organized it and made it a little bit easier. You let me know if you need anything from me, and I'm happy to help. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.